And now what would be good would be to add a progress bar here, because when we load the page, it doesn't quite load instantaneously. It takes a bit of time just to load that texture and assemble the scene. Even if it's just 1 second, it's good to give some feedback on loading time. So what we can do is, if you go again on the resources of Polygonjs, you have this progress bar element here. And there is only one progress bar, but you can already copy it. So you have the HTML, the JavaScript, and the CSS. So let's copy each of those. So we're going to copy the HTML. We're going to put that above the Polygonjs element. We're going to take the JavaScript. We're going to put that into setup scene. And we're going to take the CSS. Now let's see how that looks. So we have now the poster that takes the whole page, and what we need to do is actually we simply need to add some position relative to this element. So I'm just going to add a class called relative, and I'm going to add here that will make sure that the poster is actually contained within this container, and that is using a default poster. That's not the one that was done before, not the one that we currently have. So when you look at the editor here, you can create a screen capture using that. So we're simply going to put this here. We're going to make that square-ish, and we're going to take one screenshot. So it takes both a static image and a video, which in this case lasted 3 seconds. We are only going to use that image. So if you look at the public folder, we have this image, which is not this one, which is this one. So that's what has been captured. So we're going to replace the path of that file, public Polygonjs scenes, inside this CSS file. So public Polygonjs scenes shelf Configurator PNG. Now if we reload this, we should see what we have captured. And now how do we have the progress bar actually load the loading, display the loading of the scene? So we need to go into editor and actually measure that. And for that we're going to use a node cook event. So that node is going to send us a signal whenever a node cooks. So basically we want to know when this texture is loaded, so when this node has finished cooking, and also when the shelf this node has finished being built. Those are the main two elements we can track at the moment. So let's first have a look at how this node works. So it basically uses a mask to figure out which node it will measure. And so we're going to simply copy the path of those nodes. And if I put the path here, and now in the console, I can print which node this node is going to cook. And I also want to add the switch node here. So I'm just going to give that a more recognizable name and copy the path as well. So now if I update and I print, I'm going to see that both nodes are here. So here is a way to check what this node will do. So I can have the message node, which I can either create an alert box or display something in the console. I'm going to use a display in the console. And so I'm going to click save. And as I reload the page, I will see two messages being logged by this one, by this node. So the two messages are the first one being the switch node, and the second one being the image cook node, which is the texture. So that's how it works within the editor. Now if I want to, I can actually delete that now. So if I want to have that being displayed in the HTML, in the HTML export. How do I do that? I need to find a way to get the signal that comes out of here into the progress bar itself. So again, if you go into the resource tab, you have this, or the documentation, you have the API tab. And here we're going to look at the base event node, which is what the node cook is. And there is this onDispatch method, which is called when an output triggers an event. So that's what we want to use. So let's go back here. So I'm going to copy the path. And what I'm going to do in the setup scene, I'm going to say, I'm going to get the node. I'm going to call onDispatch. And the onDispatch takes two arguments, which is the output name and the callback. The output name is each, so on each node that a trigger is really sent, I will get the callback being executed. So on each node, which is the name of the output, and my callback. So here I want to update the progress with some progress. So how do we define the progress? So let's create two variables. So asset loaded count, which is how many assets have been loaded. So every time this callback is being run, I can increment this. And how many assets do I want? Max assets count is, I only have those two nodes that I am measuring. So const progress equal divided by max assets count. Now let's see what happens with that. If I reload the page here, I see this happens and the poster fades out and the scene is now displayed. So it's a very quick progress bar. It might be debatable if it's worth having one when we have only one texture, but it doesn't hurt and it was quick to add.